The mighty quest for epic loot officially launches with insight on future development. Guild Wars 2 drops in more info on the features in the Heart of Thorns expansion. ZMR ends up in space, and Smite prepares to launch its Season 2 changes. What's happening, guys? James Blone here with MMOHuts.com, the quick weekly recap for MMO news and announcements for the week ending February 9th, 2015. And starting up the news this week is another reminder that Rise of Incarnates has returned to Steam Early Access. This time the game is available with 8 playable characters and a brand new Paris map, not to mention countless improvements to the controls, including gamepad support and game mechanic tweaks themselves. The game is all about having quick reflexes, mental resolve, and strategic insight on how you encounter your opponents, but I can say they do need to rethink their cash shop if they really planned on making this a free-to-play game. $10 per character unlocking is pretty intense, but you know, being early access, they can always change that up. But for now though, each of the 8 characters are unlocked to try for the first week, so you've got a few days to try them all out if you haven't got a chance. Next up, Enmass released a short teaser trailer for the latest content update for ZMR that launched this past week, letting players kill everything in space now. The new Into the Void update introduces a brand new co-op campaign spanning 3 maps, as well as 2 new PvP maps, 11 new weapons, and 14 new cosmetic items. Of course, seeing that Valentine's Day is this coming weekend, there are plenty of holiday-themed weapons and items, like the deadly Valentine's sniper rifle, so you can deliver the headshot of love, I guess. It's not quite as cool as the Cupid's arrow crossbow. Nothing says I love you more in ZMR than an arrow to the neck from a Cupid crossbow. So yeah, the new content is now live on ZMR, and we've got even more information about the update at the site post at MMOHuts.com. New update information came in last week for the Repopulation, which made the cover of this month's Indie Game magazine. Congratulations on that, guys. The sci-fi sandbox MMORPG is equipped with a brand new update, which includes changes to combat, skill gain rates, economy systems, pets, entertainers, and plenty more. According to their official posts, they are doing away with their typical monthly update recaps and switching to a more frequent patch-by-patch report, major patches that is. In the latest report, the developers discussed the concerns that players expressed about the graphics and interface, as well as the combat in the game. Now, the upcoming 15.1.1 build will be their combat mega patch, as they like to call it, addressing these concerns on the current combat system in the game. Overall, it looks like they're not only trying to build an awesome sandbox MMO, but they're also doing so with their players in mind. Although some of those players look at the game thinking it's a AAA title coming from a big company, not a crowd-funded indie game in early development. Returning to the news once again this week is Nosgoth. Not only did the game recently go into open beta and then release a brand new class for the vampires, Nosgoth has now passed the 1 million downloads mark just 1 week after the launch of open beta. I myself had to install the game several thousand times, it seems, so I think I contributed that number pretty well. Either way, nice job to the team at Psyonix and Square Enix, and if you haven't checked out the Summoner class vampire, or at least my overview video, it's probably now my favorite vampire class. Plus, we also have the Shield Bearer as the new human class to look forward to towards the end of this month or early on next month. Can't wait for that. Recently, I mentioned a content update coming to Archlord 2 following the Eternal Strife expansion from December, and this past week it made its debut. New territories, a new dungeon, an increased level cap to 51, and plenty other features are introduced in this update. Both factions now have access to the new underground Garden of Light dungeon, which is guarded by a dragon infected by Galia's power. The PvP aspect of the game hasn't been left behind in this update either. A new skirmish was introduced for players over level 46 called the Red Tier Land. On this new battlefield, the goal for each team is to be the first to destroy the enemy's Centria. Head over to the MMOHuts site post for more details, but the Archlord 2 team is also putting together a special event to celebrate the launch of the new update. And speaking of expansions, NCSoft and ArenaNet released more details last week about 2 of the most exciting features in the Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns expansion. The first 2 features the studio is showing off is the new mastery system and its new vision for in-game progression, as well as a deeper look into the Heart of Maguma Jungle, the new environment that serves as the main setting for the expansion. The new jungle environment is composed of 3 biomes and also brings in elements of verticality that directly influences the gameplay. Here, players will have the opportunity to learn new masteries like hang gliding and mushroom jumping to gain access to different levels in the jungle. Masteries like these grant meaningful powers to characters and will be leveled up on separate tracks, allowing for multiple tiers and simultaneous progression on multiple masteries. The first live gameplay was shown this past Friday on their official Twitch, but it's also still rewatchable in case you missed it, and I'd say it's definitely worth checking out. Next up, a new area was revealed in Skyforge this past week called Archlord Island. I think that's how you say it. This new area was once home to one of the most beautiful temples on the planet, known as the Temple of Iona. But as we see it now, the temple stands in ruins, but the highly worshipped statue of the city's goddess still stands. The island was invaded by Phytonides, which are mysterious creatures left over from the early invasions of Aeon, and these creatures are capable of controlling a wide range of large and small plants wherever they settle, and that area quickly becomes overrun by vegetation. So, needless to say, in this area, the plants like to eat you. There isn't a video showcasing the new area yet, but you can head to the official Skyforge site to check out a cool panoramic view of the island. Plus, on top of that, I think it's really cool that they include a detailed backstory about the new areas that they show off. Well, after several years now, KOG Games and the team behind Grand Chase have finally confirmed the rumors that the game will soon be shutting down. Despite changes made and the community established Long Live the Chase campaign, the servers will be shut down on April 15th. As of now, the game's cash shop has been disabled, keeping players from making any more purchases, but as a last boost of energy from the developers, players have been granted 1 million VP to spend in the cash shop freely in the last few months of the game's life. Seems like a fun way to go out, if, you have to go out. After many funny trailers, gameplay renditions, and a small forever beta, as I like to call it, February 5th marked the official launch date for the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot. With launch comes a new trailer and a huge infograph going over all of what's happened in the Mighty Quest since the start of open beta, which, like I said, was a lot. The game probably looks a lot different from the last time you played it, if you haven't played it in a while. The coolest part of the infograph, though, is that it's also a development roadmap for features coming later on, like attack attribute power-ups for weapons, key-locked gates, switches, event triggers, and savable castle configurations, and of course, the continuation of the in-game improvements and balancing, which are always needed. Next up, it looks like Hi-rez and Smite is planning to launch its major Season 2 changes this Wednesday at its normal patch time. Besides the overhaul to the Conquest map, tons of changes are happening, including itemization changes, god balancing, and even some changes to the way Conquest is played. Several new skins and voice packs will launch with the patch, but there are several changes to Conquest besides just the visual changes like I mentioned, and some of these changes are happening in the jungle, which are particularly designed to increase aggression and the viability of invading, while also better balancing the buff options available to the teams. Listed in the super long patch notes are 9 new items to choose from, and changes made to over 40 of the existing items. God updates galore, especially the hunters, which have seen a reduction in their clear, but an increase in their ability to be dominant and scale into the late game. Lots of changes to the game, hopefully for the better, but we'll all get to check that out after patching on Wednesday. And finally, our last bit of news comes from SOE, or Daybreak Games now, even though they've yet to rebrand the website since the buyout. But the news is about H1Z1 and Jimmy Wessenhunt, the game designer on H1Z1, demonstrating the basics for survival in the game. Now, to be honest, this video doesn't really offer any more information than my first look did, but it just goes to show how much the game has improved from, say, 2 weeks ago? The loot system seems to be working correctly now, along with several other game mechanics on top of that would either not work or not work well beforehand. But now I'd say if you were on the edge of deciding whether or not to get the game back then, it's in a much better state now. So, yeah, I'd say get the game. Anyway guys, that's about it for all the major MMO news and announcements for this week. Like always, if you're looking for more information regarding the news topics and the recap, check for the links in the description below. Otherwise, head over to MMOHuts.com/news for even more MMO news. Feel free to discuss the news in the comments below or head over to MMOHuts.com/forums. And until next time guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.